Your Excellency, thank you very, very much for
My
this
pleasure.
interview. It's a great honor to have this interview with you, with Kurdistan 24. Thank you very much. Right, let me start with this forum. We have this forum, Peace and Security in Middle East. And now there's a conflict, a war between Hamas and Israel. The Middle East, whole Middle East, where is going? Is going this war to expand to another countries or just stop there?
I think the risk of the crisis between Israel and Hamas, I think the risk of that crisis expanding elsewhere in the region is very high, because I think that the conflict is fueled by the Iranian regime. I think what happened on October 7th is the logical consequence of the Iranian regime sponsoring Hamas. The money, the weapons, the training, the political support. I don't think Hamas would have been capable, it wouldn't have become the monster that it's become without the Iranian regime's more than 15 years of sponsorship of Hamas. So I view what happened what happened on October 7th, what's happening in Gaza now, is one front in among many fronts where the Iranian regime is reaching into the rest of the region in a destabilizing way.
Right, Your Excellency, you've been in Syria. You've been ambassador, like an ambassador from the United Nations, sorry, USA to Syria. So you know the Syria and the situation very well. My question is, how does you see the current U.S. policy in northern Syria, or in another way, are the U.S. Army going to withdraw from northern Syria?
I don't think the U.S. military can withdraw from northern Syria as long as there is still a terrorism problem there. Not just a terrorism problem in northeast Syria, but also in Iraq, because it spans the border. As long as there is an ISIS danger, or ISIS 2.0 danger, then no, I don't think the U.S. military can leave. We'd have to go right back if we did that. Because I think as soon as the pressure is relieved from Daesh, then they will come back. We've been through this movie. We've sat through this movie too many times, and we keep having to watch it over and over again. It's the same. I used to count. Mosul changed hands, I think, 8 times between 2003 and 2017. So no doubt there would be a Mosul problem again if the United States, if the global coalition were to withdraw from Syria and Iraq.
Okay, Your Excellency, we come to the situation in Iraq, but before that, I'd like to ask you about your relationship with the KRG, or the Kurdistan region in general. How do you see it now and in the future? Because the only real friends of United States are the Kurdish people.
Well, listen, there's no doubt the Kurdistan region is under an enormous amount of pressure right now. Pressure from, I think, outside powers, pressure from outside factions, whose goal, I think, is to see the partition of the Kurdistan region. See the Kurdistan region essentially stop being a region. I think there are outside factions, outside powers, outside Kurdistan who would like to see the Kurdistan region become only Soran over here and Baban over here, fighting against one another and able to be manipulated. The U.S. doesn't have an interest in that. I think the U.S. has not done enough in the past, since 2017, since the Kirkuk crisis. I don't think the U.S. has done enough to insulate the Kurdistan region from that pressure. In my view, the Kurdistan region is a constitutional entity within the Iraqi state. It has to remain so, and the United States should have a policy of making sure that to be able to preserve the constitutional existence of the KRG. I think right now there's not enough being done in that regard. If it can be done, and if the United States can have a stronger policy concerning the Kurdistan region, then there should be a long partnership. There should be an enduring partnership between the United States and the Kurdistan region. It makes perfect sense for the United States.
Right. Let us come back to the Israeli-Hamas conflicts and this war between them. As you mentioned, that Iran is ruling nearly the whole Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. And they are attacking the American bases, American army. Until now, as far as I know, more than 60 times. Is American going to just to stop and look at it and in silence, or America would react at the end?
Listen, regardless of who is in office in Washington, no administration can let American soldiers be killed, can let American bases and diplomatic facilities be attacked without eventually mounting a strong response. As I look at the U.S. position right now, I think Secretary of Defense Austin, General Kurilla, the CENTCOM commander, have taken very constructive military steps. They've moved forces, they've moved carrier groups and other forces into the region to be able to respond to any attack. What the United States has not done so far is to match those military steps with economic sanctions, with political pressure, international political pressure against the Iranian regime and its proxies. And so there's a mismatch, if you will, between the U.S.'s military actions and its non-military actions so far. That's counterproductive. So what I would like to see is the United States and the United States getting its allies, Europe and elsewhere, to do the same, to have economic pressure and political pressure alongside the military pressure. And then I think you would see a positive attacks, not just
not stable, neither economically or politically, especially after when the Supreme Court ruled that, and they take the chairman of Iraqi parliament out of the parliament. So how do you see the situation in Iraq? Is going to be a kind of conflict among the Iraqi people?
I think the Iranian regime and its militia parties are using the Supreme Court as an Iranian tool to try to destabilize Iraq through the courts. So there was the action against trying to declare the Kurdistan region unconstitutional. This action against a legal version of Abu Mathi al-Muhandis. And I think it's part of the same strategy.
All right. Your Excellency, let me ask you this question about the Kurdish problem. Always when we ask the politicians, journalists from Europe, from USA, when they speak about the Middle East, only they speak about the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. Why they don't speak about the Kurdish problem? We have a big problem. Nearly 40 million people without a state. Whole Kurdistan being parted to 4 parts, each part given to another country, and they don't have, except here, northern Iraq, let us say, Kurdistan, the rest, they don't have even the human right, the simple human right. Why they don't speak about this problem? Only they speak about the Palestinian and Israeli problem.
Well, I think, other things have always, in terms of the Kurdish national question, this is such an enormous question that I don't know how any Western power can get their arms all the way around it. But there is a particular part of it that I think the United States and the European allies in particular should do more about, which is trying to get to a resolution, a settlement of the Turkey-PKK conflict. In my view, so much of what is happening, so much of the conflicts in the northern Middle East, in Iraq, in Syria, in southern Turkey, all of these are because of this continuing problem of the Turkey-PKK conflict. I think there really needs to be a concerted effort to try to create a roadmap back to an armistice such as there existed before 2015, and to get back to that kind of path toward peace. And then I think, because ultimately, there needs to be a partnership between Turkey and all of the Kurdish communities in the northern Middle East. It would make perfect sense economically, socially. I think that's the way it has to go. But this Turkey-PKK conflict stands in the way.
Okay, Your Excellency, they say, some of the politicians, they say, without solving the Kurdish problem, there will not be any possibility of security and peace in Middle East. In your opinion or view, how do you see the best solution for the Kurdish problem to be solved?
Well, again, I think the first step is to try to get back to a roadmap toward a ceasefire, an armistice, and then a political process concerning the Turkey-PKK conflict. I think everything else becomes so much easier to handle, easier to address, and can be done politically. If the conflict can be settled, then these other questions can be solved politically over time. I have no doubt. But in my experience, when I was the U.S. envoy for Syria, almost nothing that we wanted to do locally in northeast Syria had a chance of succeeding, because every time it seemed like we were close to some sort of agreement, the Turkey-PKK conflict would break out again and would ruin whatever plans we had, whatever arrangements we had. So until that conflict is settled, I don't think anything else can be addressed.
Like, Your Excellency, last question. There are some problems being created by Iraq for the KRG or for Kurdistan region. Can America play a kind of role to solve all these problems between these two sides?
Well, I think we should do that. I think Iraq can't be stable and survive as a state unless there is an agreement between the regional government in Erbil and the national government in Baghdad to coexist and to operate as partners. As long as there's this existential tension and the relationship between Baghdad and Erbil is not settled, then nothing in Iraq can be stable. So it is fundamental. The constitution, the Iraqi constitution lays out that the Kurdistan region is a constitutional entity, that there will be a Kurdistan regional government. And so there needs to be an institutionalization of that relationship as a partnership. But again, at this stage, I think actually that that relationship could be stably worked out were it not for the intervention of the Iranian regime.
Sorry, Your Excellency, just if you tell me in one sentence, how do you see the future of Iraq as a state?
As a state, Iraq will be a country. Iraq will be a country. It's always been a country. It will be a country. Will it be a state? Will it be a stable state? I don't know. I think the Iranian regime hopes that Iraq will be just another satellite of the Iranian regime. So until that's solved, then things are going to be difficult for Iraq.
With this mentality who are ruling Iraq will be a state? With this mentality?
Iraq will be, I think Iraq has, listen, I think Iraq has a very bright future. I think Iraq has a very bright future because I don't think the Iranian regime is going to last forever. I think they're going to collapse at some point, and then the Iraqis will be free to make their own decisions. Let's be honest. Iraqis are not free to make their own decisions about their own country right now.
Okay. Your Excellency, thank you very, very much for this interview with Kurdistan 24. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.